I want to start off today by just, like I said, I was in Chicago this weekend. Y'all, I fell in love with that city. I do not believe, what the media says about Chicago just being this horrible and dangerous place. Yes, I'm pretty sure it has its bad areas, just like any other big city. But Chicago is an amazing city, and by far, it is my favorite downtown area of any big city I've went to. I've been to most of the big cities in the United States. I've been to New York, been to D.C., Atlanta, L.A., all of them, but no skyline is more beautiful than Chicago. I should have had a picture that I took at the top of the Sears Tower. Well, it used to be the Sears Tower. Now they call it the Willis Tower. It used to be the world's tallest building, and just the views from that top floor were just amazing. And the city, the food, the culture, everything. And I realized how much I love city life. Like, half of my family is country. Half of Tasha's family is country. My brother-in-law, all he posts is him shooting and hunting deers and squirrels. And every time we go, this is how country my brother-in-law is. They live in a town called Weewahichika. Spell it if you want to. But anyway, and he posts about him going hunting and driving trucks, and him and his son, they go fishing, and every time we go to Weewahichika, he comes to me, brother-in-law, let's go hunting together. Man, you must be crazy. Brother-in-law, you want to go fishing with us? I'm in Florida. That's a lake. There's definitely gators in that water. I'm not going. No. Man, you too cityfied, brother-in-law. We gotta put some country in you. No, I'm gonna stay cityfied. Thank you very much. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna watch some Netflix while you go hunt what I'm about to eat. Thank you. But I realized in Chicago, I am a city boy through and through. I love the city life, the skyscrapers, the restaurants, the shops, and the museums, the high-rise condos. And I left Chicago looking at those high-rise condos and saying to myself, I want to live like the Jeffersons. I want my deluxe apartment in the sky high. And so I left Chicago and looking around the city, I was like, I can do this. I can live like that. I can really do this. Maybe not Chicago because it's cold in Chicago, but I can definitely live downtown. So maybe in a few years, you may see Pastor Tasha and I living downtown in Sacramento. But I'm the downtown life. Yeah, that's definitely for me. And I just left saying, this is me. This is my future life right here. I can definitely do this. I'm tired of mowing lawns. Come on. I'm tired of pressure washing the driveway. When something broke, I want to be able to call a maintenance man instead of me trying to put on my tool belt and trying to fix it. And so I think the downtown life is truly calling me. And I was so sure that I could do this downtown living thing that I began walking the streets of Chicago as if I was already living in downtown. Because Chicagoans, they're known for having this aggressive type of personality, and they talk a little more harsh than we do. And so I was walking the streets, and the car, ran over the crosswalk and nearly bumped into me. And so I was like, hey, I'm walking here, like Chicago people do. So I took on the Chicago downtown mentality, and I caught a glimpse, y'all. I really said that in my mind. I'm walking here. I turned into an Italian for some reason. But I caught a glimpse of what it would be like to live downtown, and I liked what I saw. And now I'm ready to put those plans into motion and to make what I see in my mind, make that vision a reality. And so the same thing happens here at Life Words Church. Each of you who calls Life Words Church at home, you walk through these doors and you said, I like what I see here. And you caught the vision and you said, you know what? I can do this. I can be a part of this young ministry. I can be a part of what's happening here. I can see what God is doing here, and I can see myself being a part of it. I can do this. And so when God gives you a vision of what's possible in your life or what's possible in your ministry, when he gives you a vision of what could be in your life, you have two choices. You have two choices on how you can respond. You can say, you know what, that's too much for me. I can't do it. I'm just not ready to take that step. I just can't do this. Or you can say the opposite, which is also the title of today's message. You can say, I can do this. I can do this right here. So we're going to talk about two people today who had two choices, those same two choices, to say whether I can't do this or I can do this. And so we're going to start by talking about Saul, King Saul. And let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 9. 1 Samuel chapter 9, we're going to read verse 15 through 21, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation. It says, Now the Lord had told Samuel the previous day, about this same time tomorrow, I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin. Anoint him to be leader of my people Israel. He will rescue them from the Philistines. For I have looked down on my people in mercy and have heard their cry. Verse 17, when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said, that's the man I told you about. He will rule my people. Verse 18, just then Saul approached Samuel at the gateway and asked, can you please tell me where the seer's house is? I am the seer, Samuel replied. Go up to the place of worship ahead of me. We will eat there together, and in the morning I will tell you what you want to know and send you on your way. Verse 20. And don't worry about those donkeys that were there, that were lost 3 days ago, for they have been found. And I am here to tell you that you and your family are the focus of all Israel's hopes. Saul replied, but I am only from the tribe of Benjamin, the smallest tribe in Israel. And my family is the least important of all families of that tribe. Why are you talking to me like this? Saul's response was basically, I can't do this. I can't do this. Samuel, do you know where I come from? I come from the smallest tribe in Israel. That means we are the least of these. We are the ones who are looked down on. We're the ones from the hood. And so you cannot be calling me to do something great. My family, we're struggling right now. We don't come from a rich background or anything like that. Are you sure you're talking to me? You're sure that God is calling me to this? Samuel, I can't do this. And maybe there's been a calling in your life. God has sent someone to tell you that there is something greater for you. And when you heard it, come on, because sometimes God gives me a word and I give that prophetic word to people, and the look on their face, I don't know about that one, Pastor Tre. You sure God said that? I wouldn't say it if he didn't. And sometimes because the vision is too wide, too much for us, that the easy response is just to say, I can't do this. I don't have the skills to do this. I didn't go to school for this. I wasn't trained to do this. I cannot do this. I don't have people who are willing to support me, to give me the support I need to make this vision come to pass. God, I just cannot do this. And look what happened. And as we go over to the next chapter, Samuel chapter 10, verse 1. Now, Saul just told Samuel, you got the wrong guy. Why? He literally said, why are you talking to me like this? Why are you saying these things about me? And then here it is in verse 1 in chapter 10. It says, then Samuel took a flask of olive oil. So Samuel heard everything that he had to say. But Samuel was there. He was called by God to say, go and anoint this man. And so it says, then Samuel took a flask of olive oil and poured it over Saul's head. He kissed Saul and said, I am doing this. Come on, here we go. I am doing this because the Lord has appointed you to be the ruler over Israel, his special possessions. So Samuel's saying, look, this ain't me doing this. I didn't come here just to seek you out on my own. God sent me here because he said he has appointed you to lead Israel. And so if he has appointed you, if he called you out, I'm just here to be obedient to him, and I'm going to anoint you whether you like it or not. You're going to get this oil poured over your head. And so that leads us to our first key point today. You cannot avoid what God has appointed. You cannot avoid what God has appointed. What God has appointed over your life, you can say you can't do it all you want to, but that calling is going to keep calling you until you say yes. When my grandmother, when I was about 14 years old, she said, you are going to be a preacher, you're going to be a pastor, and I was like, grandmother, no, mama, you are wrong. I cannot do this. I said more than that, I will not do this. But she kept saying, and she just kept speaking that over me, not waiting for my response, but just saying, this is what God has said to me, that you will pastor, that you will lead, that you will preach. And I wasn't even nowhere near going down that pathway. It was all about baseball for me at that time. But here's my grandmother saying, this is what the Lord has said over your life. And here I am today. I couldn't avoid it. You cannot avoid what God has appointed. And also, even with Pastor Tasha, when we were about to move here and we were considering planting a church, before she had her brain aneurysm, she was like, nope, ain't no way we're going to lead a church. I see what's happening in the church where we are now, and I see the burden that's on the pastors, and I see behind the curtain what goes on. And how many people just disrespect the pastor and how he carries that burden. I don't want that for you. So no, I'm out. I said, okay. If you're out, then that means I have to be out as well. But the calling on both of our lives just kept calling, and we could not avoid what God had already appointed. We cannot avoid it. There are things in your life that you have been avoiding, that you've been saying, no, I cannot do this. No, this is not who I am. But God has called you to it. You cannot avoid it because he has already appointed you to this. There are three things that are clear about Saul. Three things crystal clear. One, we see here in the word that he was called to it. We know that he was called, right? That's the reason why Samuel was there. So one, he was called to it. Second, he was gifted for it. By the anointing of his head, by the pouring of the oil, that was Samuel saying that God has called you, he has anointed you, and he will give you all that you need in order to succeed in this new role in your life. So he was gifted for it. And then number three, others see it. So he was called to it, he was gifted for it, and others see it. Samuel saw the gifting. Samuel saw the calling, and he confirmed it with the anointing. So we got to remember that about our call, about our gifts, and when God calls us, we're called to it, we're gifted for it, and others see it. And then if we continue in 1 Samuel chapter 10, let's go to verse 20 through 22. It says, so Samuel brought all the tribes of Israel before the Lord, and the tribe of Benjamin was chosen by Lot. Then he brought each family of the tribe of Benjamin before the Lord, and the family of the Matrites was chosen. And finally Saul, son of Kish, was chosen from among them, but they looked for him, and he had disappeared. Verse 22. So they asked the Lord, where is he? And the Lord replied, he is hiding. He is hiding among the baggage. He is hiding among the baggage. And that leads to our second key point. When you are neck deep in your baggage, you miss out on where God wants to take you. So here is Saul being called, gifted, and others see the calling and gifting on his life. He is appointed to be king of Israel. You are going to lead Israel, and here he is hiding in the baggage. Now, it may have been a physical or literal baggage, but I also believe that this was some spiritual baggage that he was hiding in as well, because there were probably some things about Saul's past life. He even said it to Samuel, that I'm from the least of these. I'm from the hood. I don't come from wealth or anything like that. That I have some issues. Are you sure God is calling for me? And here he is, still not really confirming that God has called him, and he's hiding in the baggage, but he's also hiding in the baggage that he's been carrying his whole life. There's probably been many times in Saul's life where he said, I cannot do this. There's probably been many times in Saul's life where he was rejected because of where he came from, because he was from the smallest tribe. There's probably many times in Saul's life where he was denied and where he was disappointed. And there's probably many times in his life where he failed himself. And instead of releasing himself from carrying all that baggage, here now he's carrying that baggage. And the greatest moment of his life, God is calling him to be the king of Israel. He is now hiding from it. You cannot hide from your calling. Because Samuel couldn't let go of his baggage, he ended up being and doing the opposite of the vision that God gave him. We know later in Saul's life, we know later in his life that he began to be cruel and evil. He even tried to kill the next king that God called King David. And it's all because he couldn't release himself from the baggage that he was carrying. He couldn't give God a good yes because of all the pain that he was carrying, that the past pains and hurts. Pastor Tasha mentioned this in one of her message, a few weeks ago. He likely had some unhealed hurts and some unresolved issues in his life. And he couldn't see that being king, he couldn't be king while having these unhealed hurts and unresolved issues in his life. But then there was another man. While Saul said, I cannot do this, there was another man that said, I can do this. I can truly and indeed do this. And I'm talking about David. Let's stay in 1 Samuel, but now let's skip over to chapter 16. Chapter 16, verse 1 through 3. It says here, now the Lord said to Samuel, you have mourned long enough for Saul, because here it is. Saul's at a point where he's just not a good king because of his baggage. And the Lord was ready to appoint someone else king. It says, you have mourned long enough for Saul. I have rejected him as king of Israel. So fill your flask with olive oil and go to Bethlehem. Find a man named Jesse who lives there, for I have selected one of his sons to be my king. Verse 2, but Samuel asked, how can I do that? If Saul hears about it, he will kill me. Now Samuel is in that same spot where Saul was saying, I can't do this. Now we see Samuel doing the same thing. I can't do that. Saul's going to kill me if he hears about me going to anoint another king. And it said, take a heifer with you, the Lord replied, and say that you have come to make a sacrifice to the Lord. And verse 3, invite Jesse to the sacrifice, and I will show you which of his sons to anoint for me. And so at that point, Jesse had brought in his sons and presented all of his sons except one to Samuel to hopefully one of these boys right here would be the ones to be anointed king. And one by one, they presented themselves in front of Samuel, and none of them were right. And these sons, they were tall, they were handsome, they were muscular, they were known to be great leaders. And each time the Lord told Samuel, that's not the one. That's not the one, until it got to the point where all of them were rejected. And Samuel said, are these all the sons that you have? And Jesse replied, said, well, there's, and I love the way, I think it's the King James version puts it. It says, well, there's one more, the runt. The little runt that's still out in the field taking care of the sheep. And here, look at verse 11. He said, then Samuel asked, are these all the sons that you have? They're still the youngest, Jesse replied. See, the New Living Version is kind of nice, but the King James really put it on it. The little runt, he's outside, but I'm pretty sure that's not who you're looking for. Jesse replied and said, but he's out in the fields watching the sheep and the goats. Send for him at once, Samuel said. We will not sit down to eat until he arrives. Verse 12. So Jesse sent for him. He was dark and handsome with beautiful eyes, and the Lord said, this is the one. Anoint him. So as David stood there among his brothers, Samuel took the flask of oil, and he had brought and anointed David with the oil, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon David. From that day on, then Samuel returned to Ramah. And see, there are three things that are now clear about David. And you might have heard this before. There are three things that are clear about David. David was called to it. He was gifted for it, and others see it. The same gift that Saul had, but Saul couldn't accept it because he kept saying, I can't do it. Now, the same thing is clear about David. David is called to it. He's gifted for it, and others see it. And David went on to use these gifts to confirm his calling. He began as a musician for King Saul. All these Psalms that we read in the book of Psalms, that's because of David. He was using the gift that God had given him to prepare him for leadership, I can't even say it, prepare him for what God had for him in the future. And so here's David now being a musician for King Saul. Not only that, he was also a brave warrior. He was short. He was the youngest. He wasn't even called out into battle. While his brothers were called out into battle, David was attending the sheep, but his father said, go take some food to your brothers. And he said, you know what? I got this. I'm not only going to take some food, but I'm ready to fight as well. And we know the story. He took down the giant Goliath because he was a bad man. He was a warrior. All the things that a real king needed, David had it, but others couldn't see it because they was looking on the outside. They was looking at, oh, you're too young. You're a sheep herder. Come on. You probably, when Jesse presented David to Samuel, he was probably stinking because he was out there in the fields with the sheep and the goats. This can't be the one who's being called the king. God said, I can see past your mess. I can see past the mess, and I know that you're going to be blessed. God is saying to you, I can see past your mess because I know I'm going to bless you. I see your future. I'm not looking at your past. I see your future, and it's so much greater. If you just give me a yes instead of a I can't. Tell me that you can't do it because I've already done it for you. I've already done it for you. And with the vision God gave them, Saul and David had two different responses. Saul said, I'm going to hide and say I can't do this. I'm going to hide in these bags. Nobody can see me, but God still knows where you are. You can try to hide all you want. You could deny yourself from the gift. You can deny yourself from being called, but you could try to even hide yourself in your bed sometime. Oh, I'm not going out because somebody might see the calling or the gift that God has on me. I'm just going to stay right here in bed. You can do like Saul and say that I can't do it, or you can do like David and you can step up and say, I can do this. David, he didn't have all the tools and the resources when he said, yes, I can do it. All David had was 5 rocks and a slingshot. And I'm here to tell you, you got more than 5 rocks and a slingshot. God has blessed you with a home. He's blessed you with a car. He's blessed you with a job. He's blessed you with money in your pocket. You got so much more than David had. And so if God can bless David with just 5 rocks and a slingshot, what can God do with you with the gifts and the talents that you already have for his glory? Come on. There is something in you that you have yet to tap into. You have yet to use for God's glory. I want to tell you, as a follower of Christ, you are called to it. Come on. The same thing that he did for David and Saul. You are called to it. You are gifted for it, and others see it. Come on, I'm looking around the room at a bunch of people. I see the calling. I see the gift on you. You are called to it. You are gifted for it. God has given you a special gift. He has given you a special talent. He has given you all that you need in order to succeed, and I see it. Others see it. I see it. And let's talk about those 3 things: being called, gifted, and others see it. First of all, called. Go to book of John, chapter 15, verse 16. It said, you didn't choose me. I chose you. Let me repeat that. You didn't choose me. I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. See, Jesus wasn't looking for the most talented. He wasn't looking for that MVP status person. He wasn't looking for the wealthy one. He said, you know what? I chose you. You didn't choose me. And again, I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit so that the Father will give you whatever you ask for using my name. So you are called to it. Jesus has called you to it. Whatever that gift that you have, use it for his glory. And you may not even see it as a gift. Maybe it's just, you just think, well, this is just my quirky personality. No, no, no. That's a gift that God has given you, and you can use it for his glory. And so now we understand we're called, all of us, not just Pastor Tre, not just Pastor Tre. Just because we have titles in front of our name, that doesn't mean nothing. We are all called. And the second thing, we're all gifted. Romans chapter 12, verse 6 through 8 says this: in his grace, God has given us different gifts to do certain things well. Come on, everybody say well. He didn't just give us a gift to do certain things and let that be it. He said, I'm giving you certain gifts to do things well. And so if God has given you the ability to prophecy, speak out with as much faith as God has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. Verse 8, if your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If it is giving, give generously. If God has given you leadership ability, take responsibility seriously. And if you have the gift of showing kindness to others, do it gladly. I think that last one, we all should have that gift of just being kind, showing kindness, and we do it gladly. So this is basically Paul saying, look, we all have a gift. We all have something about ourselves that God has said, you know what? I've given you this gift. And if you haven't yet, if you haven't gone through our growth track, I definitely recommend it, because within our growth track, we show you just how God has gifted you spiritually and how it can be used for his glory. So you will see that maybe you have the gift to teach. You may have the gift of speech. You may have the gift of leadership. You may just have the gift of, like I said here, of serving others. And if you just do that, you will be showing that the calling on your life would not lay dormant. And so we know that we're called, we know that we're gifted, and lastly, others see it. Matthew chapter 5, verse 14 through 16. Others see it. It says, you are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Others need to see your gifts. God is saying here, you are a light on a hill. I don't care how far away you are. If you put a light upon a hill, everyone can see it. That's why when ships are out in the dark ocean, they put a lighthouse on a hill. They put the lighthouse on the shore, because they know, okay, we're coming on to our destination. It's not too far. And you can see that lighthouse from many, many miles away. When you are the light of your family, when you are the light of your city, when you are the light on your job, come on, others can't help but see the light. We go into places where we just, it's just a bunch of darkness here. We may go to a certain area of Sacramento and just feel like there's just a bunch of darkness here. We may go to a family function and we just feel like there's a bunch of darkness here. We may go on our job and we have to be prayed up. We're sitting in our car for 5 minutes saying, Lord, help me as I go into this dark place. But don't you know God is calling you to be the light? You shouldn't have to wait. You shouldn't have to sit in your car and get yourself geared up for a day of work. You should be saying, even if it's not a Sunday, this is the day the Lord has made. Let me be glad. Let me be glad, and let me walk into this office with the light of the Lord on me. Let me be the light in the midst of this darkness. Because if you're not the light, if people don't see the light on you, what light will they see? God said, we are the light of the world. We cannot be hidden. Let your light so shine. You are indeed the light of this world. And as I conclude today, what did Saul and David do with their gifting? For one, Saul kept it. Not only did he keep it, but he hid it. God had given him a gift and told him that you will lead and lead well. But he hid it. He kept it to himself, but David shared it. Because not only did David accept the calling, but he shared the calling with others. He began to train him and build up his son Solomon to be the next king. He equipped him. He said, I won't be here always. So I'm going to prepare you for the next, to be the next leader. And so that's what we as leaders, that's what we as people who believe in this faith that we walk, we have to share it with others, because we won't be here always. In order for this thing to continue, for this God's kingdom to grow on this earth, we must share it. If we don't, and we already see what's happening in this world when we don't share the gospel. Now, we're at a point right now, I read a statistic recently. It said right now, only 28% of people in America go to church consistently. Rather than 30 years ago, it was 72%. That's devastating. Devastating, and we could blame a lot of factors on that, but the one thing for sure, we're not spreading the gospel like we used to. And it's because we let the world say you can't share the gospel here. We can't say the Pledge of Allegiance and that part where it says one nation under God. We can't do that in school anymore because it might offend someone. We can't allow churches to serve in our schools and on government functions anymore because someone may not be a Christian and this may offend them. I want to let you know right now that if the gospel is offensive, then just call me the offender. Because we are supposed to go, what does the word say? Go in all the world. It didn't just say go into the church and preach the gospel. It said go in all the world. So I want to encourage you right now, don't hide your gift. Go in all the world. Go into the schools. Go into City Hall. Go into every corner of the city, preaching and proclaiming the gospel, using your gift to expand God's kingdom. So Saul kept it, but David shared it. Saul hid in the baggage, but David stepped up for battle. Same thing with us. As David said, I can do this. I want to let you know that you can do this as well. You are gifted. There's a room full of gifted people I'm looking at right now. And if you are gifted, that means you were called. You were called. See, being gifted means you have something to give. See, Saul didn't understand that. He thought being gifted means I could just keep this and keep it in my pocket. I don't have to use it. But being gifted means you have something to give to the world. If I have $1,000 in my hand, that means I have at least $100 to give back. If God has given me the gift to speak, then it's up to me to use this voice to give back to the world. I didn't realize that my two worlds would one day intersect the way they are right now. I tried as much as I could because I knew when moving back to California how things were here. And I knew I couldn't proclaim who I am in certain circles. And so when I'm on my job, I make sure that I separate my ministry life from my professional life. Because I know I could be fired by just proclaiming the gospel in certain spaces. And so I separated the two. But God has a way of saying, I've called you to both. I've called you into the professional world. I called you into the ministry. And I'm going to create a way for those two to intersect. And I didn't realize it until this week. As I've been trying to keep the two worlds separate, God is saying there's coming to a point where you're coming to a merging point. And all of a sudden, over the past month, I've spoken on several stages. This past week, I spoke on a stage where it was standing room only. Standing room only, talking about what I do in my professional life. But because of that, and because of the way I delivered it, now I have people from different schools all across the country saying, we want you to come to our school and speak. Not only do we want you to come to our school and speak, we want to pay you to come to our school and speak. What do you want me to speak about? Just give us some motivation. You have a gift, you have a talent to be a motivational speaker. And it was just confirmation of what God is already doing in my life. I felt that he was calling me to create a platform to do more motivational speaking. And here are these prestigious schools all across the country saying, you are indeed a motivational speaker. We want to bring you onto our campus to speak to our students, to encourage them, others to see it. What God has called you to, what God has gifted you with, others will see it. And so now I'm at a place right now where now what I do here on Sundays is now intersecting with what I do on Monday through Friday. And I'm excited about it, y'all. Because now I don't have to keep the two worlds separate, and I can stand on stages just like I did last week and share with them that not only am I the director of financial aid at UC Davis School of Law, but I'm also a pastor. And the entire room stood up and applauded me. You see, God will create space for your gifting. He will open doors, and where you think that you're not called into or where you need to hide your gift, he's saying share it with the world and watch how they respond. Others will see your gifting. So in a space where I thought that people would be offended with who I am on Sunday is now a space where people are welcoming me. That's how we change the world, by using our gifts in every space of this world, sharing the gospel in every corner, in every city, on every stage you stand on. Share who you are. Share the gifting that God has placed in you, and watch how God moves and allows your worlds not to collide, but to come together. All things come together. All things come together for those who love God and are called. There's the word, called according to his purpose. So now I'm standing on stages where there's thousands of people over the past month, several times speaking to thousands of people in these large conference halls, waiting to hear what Tre Everett has to say. Because God has given Tre Everett a word to share with the world. I want to let you know, LifeWords family, God has given you something to share with the world. It may not be with the gift of speech. It may be with the gift of serving. It may be with the gift of praying. It may be with the gift of just giving. Come on, God has given some of us just the gift to be givers. That's a gift. That's actually a spiritual gift, to be a giver. But I want to let you know, don't be like Saul. Don't be hiding in your baggage. We all got baggage. I got a lot of it. I got a Louis Vuitton set of baggage. So we all got it. But we can't hide behind it. We got to release that baggage and say, yes, I can do this. And so if being gifted means we have something to give, let's use our gifts. Let's use our gifts in the church. Let's use our gifts as the church. You want to know how we grow LifeWords Church? Use your gifts. Use your gift. Lady, with her gift of arts and crafts, she's growing our church. Because on those Friday nights when she has her group, it's a lot of us who are already a part of this church here, but every time I walk in, there's someone new there. Because someone has brought someone else in because of what her gifts are. Do you know if you use your gifts, we will be a standing room only church, and we will have to add 2 services if you only use your gifts. So I want to encourage you. Use it. Don't be afraid when God has given you a glimpse of what he's calling you into. Don't let it intimidate you. Run to it. Run to it. He's going to equip you. He's going to give you all that you need. When he called me to be a pastor, I had no idea what it meant to be a pastor. But he connected me with people who gave me the tools and the resources. But he's also going to give you the gifts. So God will give you not only the calling, but he's also going to give you the gifts to equip you into your calling. Yes. And so I'm just so grateful right now that I didn't do like Saul, but I decided to do like David and say that I got this. So I'm encouraging you today to just look at yourself today when you get home. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I got this. And why do you have this? Because God got this. From the beginning, he's had you. He's got you now, and he's already taken care of you and got you in the future. And not only do you say that I got this, as the church, let's say, we got this. Come on, yes, we got this. Don't look around and look at your circumstances. Don't look around and look at our circumstances. You got to tell yourself consistently, we got this. Better days are ahead. We got this. New growth in this ministry. We got this. Come on, I just had a talk. Matter of fact, with your mom. I had a talk. Yes, I had a talk with your mom. And you know, we need some help and support in our kids ministry. And anybody know Dara's mom was recently running for our city, not city council, but school board seat. And she said, after this election, Pastor Tre, you and I, we need to have a talk because God has called me to it. And he's gifted me to it because I already have the gift because she owns a daycare out of her home. And so she's already gifted for it. But she said, God has called me to Life Word Church. And I want to help develop and build the children's ministry. I want to help support the Life Kids ministry. So Jasmine, you got help coming. Yes, you got help coming. And so when God has already given you a gift, now you just got to use it. And I'm so thankful that Crystal said yes. And so we're going to have that conversation soon. I'm excited about that. And I know you'll be excited to have your mom sitting here with you on Sundays too. But that's how God works when we use our gifts. And that's how we grow this church. So we got this. Okay? We got this.